today has been one of those days, because yesterday was one of those days, because Friday was one of those days, because last week was one of those weeks, wasn't it? Yeah. Yep. We live in those times, my friends. We live in those times. Are we ready?
Yes.
Well, welcome everyone, those of you watching online, and of course those of you who are already here at Holy Covenant. To 50 years of hope. Will you pray with and for me? Eternal One, on this day at the end of a week so full of tragedy and near tragedy, give us the courage to hope and the strength to go forward with resolution. May we be emboldened, not burdened, and may we be inspired to reach out, not hide away in despair. In all your many names, amen. Well, it's happened again. Once again, a hate-filled person has gone into a place of worship during worship and killed. Many of the reactions I have heard and read have referenced the fact that the killer at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh used a gun and mentioned the fact for stricter gun laws, or said that if the synagogue had only had guards or had allowed worshipers to carry guns, this wouldn't have happened. Well, first of all, observant Jews cannot carry weapons on the Sabbath. So no, they would not have had guns inside the synagogue. And secondly, since when do we need to guard our places of worship?
Amen.
In the US. By law, we have freedom of worship. Isn't that what so many of the political right are demanding? Religious freedom, right? But most of all, someone who wants to kill people doesn't really need a gun, as we saw earlier this week. Someone who wants to kill people can send guns through the mail. Luckily, he was a bad bomb maker, and the people he targeted had people in place to prevent those bombs from ever reaching them. We saw this when there was a shooting in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, which is right outside Louisville. It happens to be near where my mom lives, or she actually lives in Jeffersontown. And that actually happens to be the Kmart, or the Kroger where she shops. Someone wanted to kill black people, that's what it boils down to here. And he tried to get into the church building of a black denomination. They had all the doors locked and they didn't get in. And that's why he went to the grocery store and killed 2 elderly black people. Just because they were black. Didn't matter who they were or what they were doing or where they were. He wanted to kill black people, just as the person in Pittsburgh wanted to kill Jewish people, and the person in Florida apparently wanted to kill people who spoke out against the president. Which is not against the law either, by the way, speaking out against the president. And these 3 events are just the big ones. Every day, there are shootings, mass shootings, somewhere in the US. Sometimes at schools, or malls, or shopping centers, or in an emergency room. We don't always hear about them, partly because a mass shooting is defined as 3 or more people shot, not killed, and so they aren't as dramatic, and so usually no one dies, or not, and I should say usually no one dies, but there's still mass shootings. And there are other forms of violence too. Knifings and deliberate car, quote-unquote, accidents, and poisonings, and on and on. And let's not forget the systemic violence of poverty and mass incarceration and racism and homophobia and transphobia and substandard healthcare and environmental poisons in our water and air and soil. That's violence too. and the very personal violence that we all know of that goes on in our families and schools and neighborhoods behind closed doors and drawn shades. Abuse and neglect and feuds, no matter how much we try to report it and work against it and offer help or a safe place. It's enough to make you want to just sit down and give up, curl up with a good book and some tea, and just escape from the world. Despair. Why bother? It's like playing whack-a-mole. As soon as you get one thing under control, another pops up. Or, more likely, two things pop up at the same time, and who can deal with two crises at the same time, let alone 3 or 4? Well, I'm not going to give you platitudes and say, well, it's not really that bad. Not when we have people sending bombs through the mail and shootings in synagogues and trying to shoot up churches of black people all in 1 week. It is that bad. But I'm not going to leave you there. Trust me. It can be better. No, it's not sunshine and roses and kittens, of course not. But as Brené Brown says, it's the work that makes us stronger. Every time I've had to go through the rough stuff, I've hated it. Who wouldn't? My parents' divorce, my divorce, coming out, breaking up with partners, dealing with cancer, none of it was easy. Every single time, though, it made me stronger. And every experience gave me the strength to be able to go through the next one. And more than that, each experience taught me a bit more about what was really important, about what I could leave behind, about what I really cared about just how much I cared about what other people thought about what I did or thought. Interestingly enough, I am caring less and less about what other people think and more about what helps people on the margins. Hope. It is not a pretty thing that shines in the sun, a glittering bird to reach for when everything seems rotten to distract you. Hope has gone through the mud and blood of despair and come out the other side and knows that she can do it again if she has to, because she's done it before. Hope endures, not blindly, but precisely with the knowledge of what lies ahead. MCC made it through the decades with hope. MCC would not still be here if it were not for hope. In spite of so many obstacles against us, MCC has survived. Our churches were firebombed, the pastors were threatened, we lost too many parishioners and clergy to HIV/AIDS. We couldn't find places to hold services because of homophobia. Members were anonymous because they feared being outed. We didn't have directories for years for that very reason. Some churches still don't. Our mail had to be screened. Some churches still receive threatening calls from time to time. Our members frequently are in economic difficulty because of their orientation or gender identity, are denied the health care they need, or are turned down for jobs. But still, we hope, we persevere, and we keep going. 50 years ago, when Reverend Elder Troy Perry held that first worship service in his living room with a recording of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir and 12 people, how could he have even dreamed that one day MCC would have churches around the world, would be known as the Human Rights Church, would hold services in many languages, including Spanish, German, Portuguese, Swedish, and Korean, and would be, in fact, the face of hope for so many LGBTQ plus Christians. Because he had hope. He'd been through a heck of a lot himself. Divorced, kicked out of his own church, survived suicide attempt. When the Mother Church burned down, when AIDS ravaged our members in those early days, when others disparaged our calling or our clergy or our mission or attacked us, MCC did not give up hope. We knew we could survive. We had done so before and we could do so again. You know, steel is made stronger in fire. It burns away impurities, to put it in the most concise terms. MCC is steel. The fire of difficulties has made us stronger. We haven't sought it, but we've endured it when it's come. All of us have endured those times of difficulties in our lives, haven't we? Illness, unemployment, coming out, divorce, difficult breakups, loss of all kinds. And the sheer and utter pain and struggle, difficult as they were, have made us stronger. We don't want to go through them again by any means. Who does? No one does. But the knowledge that we did, and that we can endure them again, that's hope. That's our hope. That knowledge gives us the hope that we need. With that hope, we're strengthened to rise and continue our work, whatever it may be. We cannot let those who hate, who divide or would divide, have the last word. The last word belongs to hope. To hope. Ever rising, ever new. Hope is resurrection, my friends. We cannot despair. Hope comes from our knowledge of our own rebirth, from experiences we thought would crush and destroy us, but did not. Who knows hope better than we do? We who were thought by others of being unworthy of being part of Christ's church and put out, or who were left, or who left the established churches. And so we said, led by Troy, fine, we'll build our own church. Amen. We'll have an LGBTQ church. That's hope. We know hope. We can carry it to others. Begin today. Carry the light of hope, renewal, starting again to people who need it. We all know people who need that hope. Our world needs that hope. Offer that light, that hope. Share it and light up the world. And then others can carry that light to the rest of the world. Hope. Hope, ever renewing and everlasting. In all God's names.